The Midwest Flood Vampire. My name is Luke, and what I'm about to recount happened back in 1993, during the Great Flood that drowned the Heartland. They called it the flood of the century. Rains that never stopped, levees crumbling like sandcastles, entire towns swallowed by the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. 50 lives lost, billions in damage, farms turned to lakes overnight. But in our little corner of rural Iowa, amid the chaos, something darker stirred, something that folk whispered about as a flood vampire, a blood drainer that haunted the waters, sucking the life from beasts and leaving families shattered. And the man who saw it most? My Uncle Tom, my dad's older brother, a rugged rancher whose story still chills me to the bone, making me wonder if she's out there still, waiting for the next deluge. Let me paint the picture for you, slow and steady, so you feel the damp creep into your bones. Iowa in the early 90s was pure heartland, endless cornfields swaying under big skies, small towns where everyone knew your name and your grandpa's too. We lived on the outskirts of a farming community near Des Moines, where the Des Moines River snaked through like a lazy serpent. But in '93, that serpent woke up hungry. The National Weather Service had been blaring warnings for weeks. Record rainfall upstream, saturated soil, rivers swelling. Folks sandbagged their homes, boarded up windows, and prayed in church basements. My family was no different. Dad worked the fields, Mom kept the house, and I was the fifth kid, scampering around oblivious to the gathering storm. Uncle Tom was the family rock, mid-30s then, no wife, no kids, just his two prized cows, Bessie and Daisy. He lived in a modest ranch house with brick walls and a sturdy tin roof, inherited from our grandparents who'd passed years earlier. Tom made his living herding cattle for neighbors, renting out his own for plowing the stubborn soil. In those days, before every farm had a tractor, a good cow was gold, pulling plows through the muck, turning earth for corn and soy. Tom loved those animals like family. He'd raised them from calves, brushing their hides, talking to them under the stars. As the flood warnings escalated, levees straining, FEMA trucks rumbling in with sandbags, the community buzzed with that dark Midwestern humor. If you're feeling poorly, hold off dying till the water recedes, folks would joke at the diner over coffee. Burials were a nightmare in floods, cemeteries turned to swamps, coffins floating up like grim buoys, real stories from the papers, graves unearthed, bodies adrift. No one wanted that fate. About a month before the flood hit our area, old Mrs. Clara Thompson, a widow in her late 70s, took ill. She was a fixture in town, weathered by decades of harsh winters and scorching summers, her back bent from years on the farm. Skin like leather, hair silver white, she looked 100 in those rural parts where life grinds you down early. Her family fretted, "Lord, if she passes now, how do we bury her with the river rising?" She lay bedridden for a week or 10 days, weak as a kitten. Then, miraculously, she rallied, sat up, ate heartily, even walked around the house. But her personality flipped like a switch, from gentle and forgiving to snarly and mean, cursing over trifles. Still, she remembered every grandkid's name, every family tale. Neighbors chalked it up to old age, menopause echoes, hormonal shifts, the toll of isolation since her husband died young. As long as she's kicking, she'll outlast the flood, they said, relieved. But fate had other plans. Just days before the levees broke, warnings blaring on the radio, skies dumping endless rain, Mrs. Clara died suddenly. No illness flare-up, no accident. She went to bed fine, didn't wake. peaceful, like she'd just decided to sleep forever. The family buried her quick in the local cemetery. No fancy service, just a simple Protestant funeral with Pastor Jenkins reading psalms. No time for embalming delays. The ground was already soggy. Later, when the waters receded, the pastor checked the almanac and shook his head. Bad day for a burial. Folks, omens weren't right. But who checks calendars when the river's roaring? Then, the flood hit. Biblical, unrelenting. Levees burst in July, water surging like a tidal wave. Our town became an island chain. Homes half submerged, roads vanished. FEMA boats patrolled, dropping MREs and blankets. Uncle Tom hunkered in his attic, rations stacked, listening to the water lap at the walls. No power, just lantern light and the constant drum of rain. A few days in, around dawn, 5 or 6 a.m., that gray half-light, Tom heard the roosters crow from neighboring high coops. He peered out, waiting for rescue boats. First, a chicken carcass floated by, not his, a neighbor's. He hooked it with a pole, standard flood gear. The bird was mangled, bloodied, not drowned, but wounds oozing a tangy metallic scent. He set it aside, puzzled. Then, a larger shape bobbed in the current, a body. Floods unearthed the dead. Papers were full of it. Tom fished it in, flipped it face up. Mrs. Clara, pale, bloated in her burial dress. The cemetery must have flooded, grave washed out. He kept the corpse on his roof, signaling the next FEMA boat to take it back to her family. As the boat arrived, Tom glanced back. The body's hand clutched the chicken's neck, mouth smeared red. He chuckled nervously. "Craving poultry, Mrs. Clara? Leave it for the living." The family cleaned her up, noting the blood. Must be from floating debris. Tom tried boiling the bird, but found bite marks. Human teeth, deep, snapping the neck, blood drained. Shaken, he tossed it back, whispering, "If that's you, take it. I don't want it." The flood dragged on, weeks of isolation. Mrs. Clara's body floated away repeatedly. Always near dead animals, chickens, dogs, even pigs, necks bitten, blood gone. Rumors spread via boat chatter. She's a flood vampire, rising to feed, like the old New England tales where vampires drained kin during tuberculosis outbreaks. Families prayed, some tied down the corpse. After 2 weeks of vigilance and church blessings, it stopped moving, just bloating in the heat. Waters receded in August, mud everywhere, cleanup endless. They reburied her in a higher cemetery miles inland with a proper service. Life resumed, farms replanted, cattle returned. A month later, Uncle Tom herded his cows to a grassy field, unaware it bordered the new grave. He staked them with ropes, common to prevent straying. Dozed under a tree reading the paper, woke, ropes loose, cows grazing, on grave grass, necks bleeding fresh. He shooed them, apologizing. "Sorry if that's you, ma'am. Cows don't know better." Days repeated, ropes untied, wounds worsening. Tom staked out, hid, watched. Ropes slipped. Cows wandered to the grave, munching. Blood flowed. He begged, "Don't take my livelihood." Cows bolted. That night, chain clinks woke him. Cows' bells. Peered out. A figure between them, Mrs. Clara, silver hair loose, burial dress sodden, arms around their necks, licking wounds with a normal tongue, but fangs glinting, 1-2 inches long. No Hollywood flair, just a rural revenant feeding. Tom fled inside, praying, "Lord, spare them. I returned your chicken." Morning, cows dead, necks punctured, blood pooled. He wailed, neighbors gathered, witnessed the marks. "Vampire got him!" Like those unsolved mutilations in the papers, cows drained, no tracks. Community stormed Clara's family. Call the pastor, exorcise her. Pastor arrived, blessed the grave with holy water, Bible verses. Peace held 6 months. Then a storm. Lightning struck the grave, scorching it, cracking the headstone photo. No more incidents, or so they say, but whispers linger. Farms still lose livestock mysteriously. Blood gone, bites fresh. In dreams, I see her in the floodwaters, fangs bared, calling. If rains come heavy to the Midwest, listen for bells in the night. She might be rising again, hungry for more. The giggling ghosts behind the wall. My name is Dean, and what I'm about to share happened back in 2013, in the lingering aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, that monster storm of 2005 that drowned the city and left ghosts in its wake. Over 2,800 souls lost, neighborhoods like the 9th Ward turned to swamps, abandoned lots festering with trash and forgotten graves. News reports from the Times-Picayune and FEMA logs tell of bodies floating, children vanishing in the floodwaters, real horrors that birthed legends of restless spirits. I came to NOLA fleeing debts from my rural Louisiana hometown, chasing work in the Big Easy to send money back. But in a rundown apartment on the city's ragged edge, I encountered something that still echoes in my dreams. The laughter of drowned children begging for sweets from beyond the wall. A plea that turned my blood to ice, making me question if they're ever truly gone, or if they're waiting, giggling in the dark for the next soul to listen. Let me take you back, step by step, so you feel the weight of it all. The sticky heat, the distant jazz horns, the creeping dread. I grew up in a small bayou town south of Baton Rouge, where life was slow and debts piled fast. A bad loan for a truck, some gambling slips, nothing criminal, but enough to have collectors knocking. In 2013, at 22, I packed a duffel and hitched to New Orleans, the city of second chances, or so they say. Post-Katrina, NOLA was rebuilding, but scars ran deep. Levees reinforced, but trust in them thin. Neighborhoods revived, but pockets of poverty like open wounds. I bounced jobs, construction grunt, waiter in the French Quarter, handing out flyers on Bourbon Street, even peddling lottery tickets in the markets. Anything to scrape by, send cash home. Housing was a nightmare. Cheap spots in the Quarter hiked prices for tourists, landlords evicting on whims. I switched 3 times in a year, once chased out for late rent, another when floods threatened. Finally, landed a steady gig as a laborer at a small warehouse in the Industrial Canal area, loading crates, sweating through shifts. But commuting from the Quarter to there was hell. Buses delayed, miles on foot. So, I hunted for something closer, in the 9th Ward, Katrina's ground zero, where waters had risen 20 feet, drowning dreams and lives alike. Real stories from survivors, kids trapped in attics, calling out as roofs caved, bodies recovered weeks later. The ward was rebounding, but abandoned lots lingered. State-owned swamps turned dumps, trash heaps rotting under Spanish moss. That's where I found the place, a slum apartment block in a forgotten hem, surrounded by overgrown fields and murky ponds. Locals called it a ghetto pocket, cheap for migrants like me. I asked around. Lottery vendors, street kids pointed me to the end of a potholed alley, past chain-link fences and stagnant water. The landlord, a grizzled woman named Ms. Rita, showed me the last unit. $300 a month, utilities extra. Dingy room, peeling wallpaper, mini fridge, and hot plate for ramen. But it was the end unit, backed against a high brick wall separating it from a vacant lot. Trash-strewn, swampy, the kind where Katrina's ghosts were said to wander. I took it. What choice did I have? First couple nights were fine, exhausted from work. I'd crash early on the lumpy mattress, no phone to distract. Back then, I had an old Nokia Flip, calls only, no apps. But after a month, I scraped enough for a cheap Chinese smartphone, touchscreen, dual SIM, my ticket to Facebook and late night scrolling. That's when the trouble started. I'd prop the window open for breeze, no AC, saving pennies, plug in wired earbuds, 3.5mm jack, remember those? And lose hours to the glow. One night, around 11 p.m., laughter filtered in. Kids giggling playful shrieks. I yanked out the earbuds, thinking it was from the phone. No, coming from behind the wall, 2-3 voices, boys and a girl, horsing around like it was midday. Odd for midnight, I thought, but slums are noisy. Lasted 20-30 minutes, then silence. I shrugged, slept. Next night, same time. Laughter, now with chatter. What's he doing? He's got those things in his ears, can't hear us. Asleep yet? Nah, eyes open. My heart skipped. Window open, they could see me. I hollered, "Hey kids, bedtime, go sleep." Instant quiet. I chuckled, feeling like a bully scaring toddlers. 4-5 nights straight. Every time I scrolled late, the giggles started, then tapping on the wall. Thump, thump. I'd yell, they'd hush, nearly a week. By then, I'd chatted with neighbors, fellow laborers, sharing beers on stoops. What's behind the wall? Kids partying at midnight? They laughed. Ghetto life, man. Kids skip school, hustle candy on streets. But behind, vacant lot, post-Katrina dump, swamp pond, trash piles. We toss garbage over. No houses, just weeds and ghosts. That chilled me, but I brushed it off. Then, one evening at work, near All Souls Day, church nearby donated candy for the poor. I grabbed a handful, fruit chews, suckers, stuffed in my pocket for late night munching, hit a bar with coworkers, got buzzed on cheap beer, stumbled home 10-11 p.m. Fumbling keys, heard, "Mister, gimme candy, smells so good." Slurred, "No candy here." They, "In your pocket, liar." Remembering, I pulled out the handful. "Where are you? Come get it." 3 heads popped over the 2-meter wall. 2 boys, 1 girl with pigtails. Dirty faces, ragged clothes, like street urchins. They snatched, fingers ice cold brushing mine. Goosebumps raced. "Thanks, mister." Ducked down. I laughed it off, crashed inside, but sobered quick. How'd 5-7-year-olds climb that wall? No ladder, no boost. Impossible. "Morning," asked Ms. Rita. "Burn trash in the lot? Reduce rent?" She. "Help me. I'll knock off $200. Afternoon. Bought kerosene. Circled the dump. Mountain of refuse, swamp stink. Behind the pile, 3 small graves against the wall. Born 2007, 2008, drowned. I froze. Those kids. No photos, but headstones. Real Katrina aftermath style. Didn't burn, told Rita. Graves back there. Can't. She sighed. Used to be a pond there pre-Katrina. Old apartments next door, torn down for code violations. Kids played, storm hit. Pond swelled deep. 3 drowned clutching hands. Families buried them on site. Catholic custom for unrested souls, then fled back country. Graves abandoned, trash overgrew. Early on, folks left candles, but now, forgotten. I bought candy, lit candles at graves, prayed. Then, packed, too creepy. Ghosts of drowned kids, no thanks. Paid debts, returned home. But Nola's lot still haunt. Slums whisper of lost children. In dreams I hear giggles. Feel cold fingers. If rains flood the bayous, listen behind walls. They might beg again, hungry for more than sweets. The Wig Made of Human Hair. This story comes from Liam. It happened in the fall of 2014 when he was just in 8th grade at a public middle school in the suburbs of Nashville, Tennessee. Now, don't picture the glitzy music city you see on TV with its neon-lit honky-tonks and country stars strumming guitars on Broadway. No, this was the outskirts. The quiet, foggy edges where the ancient pine forests of the Appalachians creep right up to the school grounds. The air there in autumn is thick with mist at night, rolling in from the Cumberland River, blanketing everything in a white shroud that makes shadows dance and whispers seem louder than they should be. The school itself was your typical Southern American middle school. Red brick buildings from the 70s, a wide football field with Friday night lights that drew the whole community for games, and hallways lined with metal lockers that echoed with the chatter of kids dreaming about high school glory. But there was one figure who stood out like a sore thumb, or maybe a ghost from the past, the old janitor, Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller was a gaunt man, skin stretched tight over his bones like old leather, his face etched with deep wrinkles from years of hard labor under the Tennessee sun. His eyes were always bloodshot, rimmed red as if he hadn't slept in days, or maybe as if he'd seen things no one should. He lived alone in a small caretaker's shack detached from the main building, right by the football field. It was a rundown little place with peeling paint and a rusty tin roof that rattled in the wind. Kids whispered about him in the cafeteria, swapping stories over trays of tater tots and chocolate milk. They said he had schizophrenia. By day, Mr. Miller was gruff and silent, sweeping leaves or fixing fences as per school safety regs, never making eye contact. But at night, the football players staying late for practice swore they heard a woman's giggling laughter drifting from his shack, mixed with the faint twang of old country tunes on a crackling radio. They nicknamed him Crazy Miller, but no one dared get close enough to prove the rumors. Liam was your average 13-year-old back then, lanky with a mop of brown hair and a love for video games like Call of Duty. He lived in a modest ranch-style house a few miles from school with his parents. Dad a mechanic at a local auto shop, Mom a waitress at a diner serving up biscuits and gravy. School was okay, but the real excitement came from hanging with his buddies. Mason, the class clown with freckles and a quick laugh. Noah, the quiet one who was always sketching in his notebook. And Ethan, the athlete dreaming of making varsity football. They were inseparable, the kind of friends who shared everything from homework cheats to ghost stories around campfires. The whispers about Mr. Miller had been circulating for years. Liam first heard them in 6th grade, when an older kid claimed to have seen shadows moving in the shack's window after dark. "It's his dead wife," the kid said, eyes wide. "She haunts him, makes him act all weird." Liam laughed it off then, but as the years passed, the stories grew. One girl swore she smelled lemonade, fresh squeezed, tangy and sweet, wafting from the shack on windy nights, even though no one sold it on campus anymore. Another claimed to hear high heels clicking on the gravel path near the football field, long after everyone had gone home. That October, the school buzzed with anticipation for the annual 8th grade lock-in, a classic American school tradition to build camaraderie. For $20 a head, kids got to spend the night in the gymnasium playing games, scarfing pizza from local joints, and watching movies until dawn. It was the highlight of the year. Dodgeball tournaments under the basketball hoops, karaoke sessions belting out Taylor Swift hits, and ghost stories shared in the dim glow of flashlights. Parents loved it because it was supervised. Kids loved it because it felt like freedom. The night started off normal enough. Around 50 eighth graders piled into the gym, unrolling sleeping bags on the polished wooden floor that creaked underfoot. The air smelled of rubber from the mats and cheese from the pizza boxes stacked high. Teachers chaperoned, laughing as they organized games like Capture the Flag. Liam and his friends dominated a round of charades, acting out horror movie scenes to giggles and screams. But by 11 p.m., the energy waned. The adults retreated to the coach's office for coffee and quiet, leaving the kids to whisper in their bags. "This is lame," Mason grumbled, propping up on his elbow. "We're too old for kiddie stuff. Let's sneak out, hit the 24/7 gas station down the road for Red Bulls and candy. It'll be epic." The plan was risky. School rules strictly forbade leaving the building, with suspension as punishment. But the thrill won out. They waited until the snores started, then slipped out the emergency exit at the back of the gym. The alarm mercifully disabled for the event. Outside, the autumn night enveloped them, crisp air carrying the scent of pine needles and distant bonfires, fog swirling around their ankles like ghostly fingers. The path to the main road cut right past Mr. Miller's shack, its silhouette looming against the foggy football field. "Keep quiet," Liam whispered, heart pounding with a mix of excitement and unease. The fog thickened, muffling their footsteps on the wet grass. As they neared the shack, a dim light glowed from inside, casting elongated shadows through the cracked blinds. The blinds were drawn, but a small gap allowed a peek. Curiosity, that deadly cat killer, took hold. "Bet he's just snoring with his boots on," Mason snickered. "Quick pick for Snapchat. Legendary prank." They crept up, pressing faces to the cold glass. What they saw froze them in place. No snoring old man. Instead, a scene of pure madness unfolded under the yellowish bulb. The room was a mess, tools scattered, wrenches, hammers, from school maintenance, old newspapers like the Nashville Tennessean piled in corners, and a musty smell seeping even through the window. Mr. Miller sat at a cracked vanity table, the kind from old motels. Atop a foam mannequin head sat a blonde wig. But this wasn't store-bought synthetic shine. It was dull, matted, uneven, like real hair long dead, with strands clumped as if preserved poorly. He picked up an antique silver comb, stroking the wig tenderly, humming a melancholy country melody, something like Dolly Parton's Jolene. Then he lifted it, placing it on his bald scalp. It sat crooked, dangling over one ear. Next, a cheap Revlon lipstick, cherry red. His calloused hands trembled as he smeared it on, streaking across his chin and cheeks into a grotesque clown smile. Finished, he admired the mirror. His posture shifted, no more hunch. Shoulders relaxed, head tilted coquettishly. The smile wasn't male, it was vain, feminine. He spoke to his reflection, but the voice, high-pitched, southern drawl, all sugar and sass. "You look gorgeous tonight, darling. Queen of the prom. Everyone's gonna stare." Mason gasped. "What the heck?" The figure snapped toward the window, eyes piercing. "Run," Liam hissed. They bolted, scrambling through fog, abandoning the gas station plan. Back in the gym, they dove into bags, breaths ragged, swearing secrecy. But the image lingered, a seed of dread planting roots. Hours later, around 2 a.m., the gym was pitch black save for green exit signs. Mason, restless, needed the bathroom. The gym ones were out, plumbing issue. He had to use the staff ones down the long hallway, past lockers that loomed like sentinels. Halfway there, sounds. Clack, 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 high heels on tile. Mason halted, skin crawling. Who wears heels at 2 a.m.? The steps stopped behind him, a heavy hand on his shoulder, rough but caressing. He turned slowly. Mr. Miller towered in his gray uniform, but the wig perched atop, makeup smeared ghostly white with red lips. In the dim light, he looked like a corpse dolled up for a wake. Mason choked. Mr. Miller grinned, teeth yellow. The woman's voice purred. "Where you going, sugar? Stay and tell me my hair's pretty." "Mr. Miller?" Mason stammered, the face twisted in rage. "Don't call me that. I ain't that old fool." Hands clamped his throat, slamming him into lockers. Bang! Strength unnatural, vice-like. Vision blurring, the face leaned in, tobacco, formaldehyde, lemon tang. "Y'all mock me, laugh at my hair, but I'm beautiful. Prettiest in town." Desperate, Mason kicked a metal trash can. Clang! Lights flooded. A teacher yelled, "What's happening?" Mr. Miller released, dazed, clutching his head and wig, fleeing into the night. Morning brought police. Mr. Miller vanished. Mason, bruised, spilled everything. English teacher Mrs. Gable, a lifelong local versed in Tennessee lore, wept and revealed the truth. 3 years prior, Mr. Miller's wife Dolly was flamboyant, vain about her long blonde hair. She ran a lemonade stand at football games, fresh squeezed with an old industrial press, dangerous gears exposed. One windy fall afternoon, a gust whipped her unbound hair into the spinning shaft. In seconds, it yanked, degloving her scalp, ripping hair and skin from skull. She died bleeding, clutching her tresses. Grief drove Mr. Miller mad, schizophrenia with hallucinations. Police found him hiding. The wig was her actual hair and dried scalp, stolen from the scene, preserved morbidly. For years, Dolly's spirit, obsessed with lost beauty, possessed him nightly, makeup, combing, to relive admiration. Seeing Mason triggered rage, mistaking him for mockers. Mr. Miller was institutionalized under Tennessee mental health laws. Liam's crew avoided overnights forever. Even now, Liam gags at red lipstick or lemonade scent. The Dead Lot in Roswell. This story comes from Emily, a woman living in the small town of Roswell, Georgia. What she shares isn't her own experience, but a family secret whispered by her grandpa Joe on stormy nights, when he'd sit by the fireplace with a glass of bourbon in his trembling hand, his eyes distant as if staring into the past. Grandpa Joe was a tough old Southern gentleman, born in the early 1900s, who worked as a mill hand in Roswell's historic cotton mills, remnants of the town's antebellum prosperity. He'd seen 2 world wars, the Great Depression and the civil rights marches down Main Street, but nothing haunted him like the tale from 1865, passed down from his own grandfather, who had been a young local boy during the Civil War. Emily grew up hearing fragments of it, pieced together over family dinners of fried chicken and collard greens. But it was only in Grandpa Joe's final years, as dementia crept in, that he revealed the full, chilling truth. He'd mutter about the proud lady who wouldn't let go, his voice cracking like thunder. Roswell, with its charming historic district and proximity to Atlanta, seems quaint today, a place of farmers' markets and antebellum tours. But beneath the surface, in the heart of town, lies a forsaken plot of land that locals call the Dead Lot, overgrown with Johnson grass and invasive kudzu vines that choke everything in their path. It's fenced off with rusted iron per county safety regs. No one's built on it for over 150 years, despite the town's growth into suburban sprawl with strip malls and coffee shops. Investors come and go, but machinery stalls inexplicably. Workers suffer freak accidents, broken limbs, unexplained falls, and permits get tangled in red tape. Why? It all traces back to the dying days of the American Civil War in 1865, when General Sherman's Union Army marched through Georgia, scorching earth in his infamous March to the Sea. Roswell wasn't spared. Mills were burned, homes occupied, and the air thick with smoke and despair. In the center of what was then a sleepy southern town stood a grand antebellum mansion, its white Greek revival columns gleaming under the Georgia sun, wide verandas overlooking the nearby Chattahoochee River. It was the kind of home featured in history tours today, like Bullock Hall just down the road. A real antebellum gem with its own ghost stories that made local news in the 80s, tales of shadowy figures and cold spots from the war era. This mansion belonged to Madame Elizabeth, a wealthy widow from old Southern aristocracy, known for her unyielding pride and iron will, traits revered in antebellum ladies who managed vast plantations. Her husband had died young, leaving her to rule the household with a firm hand, hosting lavish balls where fiddle music filled the air and guests sipped mint juleps. She had 4 sons, strapping young men who, when the war erupted in 1861, donned the gray uniforms of the Confederacy, answering the call of President Jefferson Davis to defend the South. They marched off with dreams of glory, leaving their mother to pray by candlelight in the mansion's parlor. By spring 1865, the war was crumbling. Sherman's forces swept into Roswell, occupying homes and enforcing martial law. Madame Elizabeth barricaded her doors, refusing to acknowledge the Yankee invaders under Union occupation laws. She lived in seclusion, her once vibrant home now shadowed, waiting for word from the front via slow postal riders. But the news that arrived shattered her. One morning, a courier delivered 4 death notices at once from the Confederate War Department. 2 sons fallen at Gettysburg in 1863. That bloody battle, the war's turning point, with over 50,000 casualties, splashed across newspapers north and south. The other 2 vanished, presumed dead from cholera and malaria in Union prison camps like Andersonville, Georgia's infamous hellhole where thousands perished in squalor, documented in harrowing survivor accounts. The blow unmade the steel-willed woman. That night, she dismissed her servants with full pay, a Southern custom of honor, even in ruin. Donning her finest black mourning gown, a wide hoop skirt of silk, she ascended the oak spiral staircase to the master bedroom, its high ceilings echoing her footsteps. There, she looped a rope over the crystal chandelier, a Victorian heirloom, and hanged herself, her neck snapping with a finality that echoed through the empty halls. The next morning, townsfolk found her, eyes bulging, body swaying. With local cemeteries overflowing from war dead, they buried her in her beloved rose garden out back, beneath an ancient live oak, following family burial traditions common in the rural South. A month later, Captain Elias Miller, a pragmatic northerner from Pennsylvania, hardened by battles, arrived to oversee reconstruction under President Lincoln's orders. He needed a provisional town hall for administration. Madame Elizabeth's mansion fit perfectly, stately, fortified, centrally located on what's now Old Roswell Road. Miller despised Confederates, viewing them as traitors per the U.S. Constitution. Upon discovering the grave in the garden, marked by a simple stone slab, he bellowed at his men during morning muster. "Unacceptable! This is United States government property now. I won't work with a rebel woman's corpse staring at me from the window." dig her up, relocate to the public potter's field in the woods. His order was executed swiftly under military protocol, though some local recruits grumbled, respecting the dead per Christian beliefs prevalent in the Bible Belt. That desecration sparked the horror. The first nights post-exhumation, the mansion shifted. Guards reported bone-chilling cold despite Georgia's sweltering summer highs of 90-degree teen. Candles extinguished in unison, leaving acrid wax scents. Then, she appeared. One foggy moonlit night, Privates Smith and Jones stood sentry at the front gate. Mist rolled in from the river, typical for humid southern evenings. From the haze emerged a woman in black mourning attire, veiled hood obscuring her face, strolling the lawn like an antebellum belle. "Halt, ma'am! Curfew!" Smith barked per occupation rules. No reply. She glided toward the house. The soldiers charged to intercept, rifles ready. But up close, terror struck. She moved swiftly, yet silently. No footfalls on gravel. Her long skirt skimmed the grass without bending a blade, as if floating. She paused at the door, turning slowly. Under lantern light, no face, just inky void in the hood. A pallid skeletal arm extended from her sleeve, pointing accusingly. A voice echoed, not from her, but the walls themselves. "This is my house. Give it back." Panicked, they fired. Bullets passed through, splintering the door. She dissolved like smoke, her cackle echoing across the yard, mingling with river winds. Miller dismissed it as southern sabotage, rebel remnants in the woods, but escalations mounted. A week on, he awoke in the master bedroom to creak, creak. The chandelier swayed, windows sealed. Above, a dark form dangled, writhing in eternal agony, legs kicking air. He grabbed his Colt revolver, but lighting a lamp banished it. Only the fading creak remained and a faint rose perfume from the vanished garden. Terrified, Miller confided in young Grandpa Joe's ancestor, a local teen hired for odd jobs post-war. "Joe, this place is cursed," he admitted, voice quaking in his makeshift office. "She's angry," Joe replied with Georgia drawl. "Big mistake, Captain. You evicted her from her own soil. Proud lady like that won't rest. She'll haunt y'all till you're gone or dead." "What now?" Miller pleaded. "Invite her back, apologize proper, host a supper for her and her boys." Skeptical but desperate, Miller complied. That night, in the mahogany dining room, a feast. Southern fried chicken, cornbread, bourbon. 5 silver place settings from Army stores, 1 at head for Elizabeth, 4 for sons. Candles lit, wine poured, guards dismissed. Alone, Miller stood. "Madam Elizabeth, I regret the offense. Times change. May I borrow your home for duty?" Words unfinished, candles snuffed. Windows flew open, gale howling. Relighting one, he saw them. 5 specters at table, Elizabeth at head. Waxen face, lidless eyes staring, rope bruise purpling her snapped neck, head lolling. Sons in tattered gray uniforms, bullet-riddled from Gettysburg, blood pooling on white linen. One half-faced from cannon fire, another armless, bone gleaming. They didn't eat, just stared with dead eyes. Silence choked. Elizabeth rasped gravelly. "Borrow my house?" "Yes, fine. For my boy's meal, 10 years exact." She glided close, broken neck inches away. "After, if not returned, your life, and every brick reclaimed." They vanished, candles reignited. Miller collapsed, gasping. He'd bargained with the devil. Next day, he swore Joe to secrecy per orders. 10 years passed peacefully. Mansion became town hall, hosting meetings. Miller rose to colonel, aged, forgot, chalked to war stress. On the 10-year anniversary, 1875, cracked spider-webbed walls overnight, roof-leaked blood-red water sans rain, windows shattered spontaneously, nights filled with wails, moans, marching boots, staff fled by 5 p.m. Miller remembered, panic-stricken. Elizabeth demanded repayment. He ordered relocation to new building, citing structural failure per codes, evacuation, 3 frantic days, wagons hauling files. Final night, post-evacuation, a massive storm hit Roswell. Neighbors saw on the veranda a black-gowned woman, arms outstretched, hair whipping, cackling madly under flashes. A colossal bolt struck the roof. No fire. Instead, explosive boom, structure crumbling as if crushed by giant hand. In minutes, grandeur reduced to rubble. Elizabeth kept her word. Destruction over eternal occupation, since the lots abandoned. Grandpa Joe called it cursed. Grass withers oddly. Birds avoid. Developers try. Machines fail. Injuries mount. Claims filed under labor laws. Fenced off, it rots under time and her reign. The jealousy curse. It's a crisp autumn evening in 2015, and Tiffany's staring at her reflection in a foggy bathroom mirror in her cozy apartment in Sydney, Australia. She's got a good life now, a loving husband, a steady job in marketing, and the ocean breeze whispering through her windows. But every time she leans in close, that faint scar on the bridge of her nose catches the light. It's barely there anymore, thanks to the plastic surgery, but it throbs like a phantom pain, pulling her back to that hellish year in New York City 10 years ago. Back when friendship turned to betrayal, love twisted into possession, and an ancient curse rooted in real-world horrors slithered into her world. Tiffany grew up in a sleepy little town called Catskill in upstate New York. You know, one of those places straight out of a postcard with rolling hills, old Victorian houses, and the Hudson River snaking through like a vein of secrets. Tiffany, Tina, and Mike were inseparable since high school at Catskill High. Mike was the golden boy, captain of the football team, straight A student, and he could shred on his electric guitar like nobody's business. Girls swooned over him, but Tiffany and Tina, they were his ride or dies. Tiffany was the outgoing one, always organizing bonfires by the river or road trips to Albany. Tina, though, she was quieter, shadowing Tiffany like a ghost, with her nose always buried in books about folklore and the occult. Both girls harbored crushes on Mike, but they buried those feelings deep to keep the trio intact. No drama, no jealousy, or so they thought. Fast forward to college. The three of them packed up and headed to the Big Apple, enrolling at NYU in Manhattan. The city was a whirlwind. Times Square's neon chaos, Central Park's hidden paths, and those late-night slices at Joe's Pizza on Carmine Street. Tiffany's feelings for Mike blossomed amid the skyscrapers. By senior year, she couldn't hold back anymore. One rainy night in Washington Square Park, under the arch that's seen more proposals than you can count, she confessed. Mike, I've loved you since we were kids splashing in the Hudson, she said, her heart pounding like the subway rumble below. To her shock, he grinned that perfect smile and pulled her close. Tiff, I've felt the same way forever. I was just too scared to mess up our friendship. It was magic. Real, heartfelt magic. Or at least, that's what it felt like before the darkness crept in. Tiffany couldn't wait to tell Tina. They met at their shared dorm in Greenwich Village, the kind of place with creaky floors and walls thin enough to hear the neighbors' arguments. Tina, Mike, and I, we're together, Tiffany beamed, expecting hugs and squeals, but Tina just froze. Her eyes darkened, like storm clouds rolling over the Catskills. She stared at Tiffany for what felt like an eternity, then turned and walked out without a word. The next morning, Tina was gone. Vanished. She'd cleared out her room, blocked their numbers, and disappeared into the city's underbelly. No note, no goodbye. It was like she'd been erased. A year ticked by. Tiffany and Mike got engaged in a romantic spot overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge. Real New York romance, with the East River glittering below. They were planning a fall wedding at a swanky venue in the meatpacking district, the kind where celebrities tie the knot. Invites went out, dresses were fitted, and life felt perfect. Until one stormy evening, there was a knock at their Brooklyn apartment door in Park Slope. Tiffany opened it, and there stood Tina. But not the Tina she remembered. This version was gaunt, her skin ashen like she'd been drained of life. Her arms and neck were covered in tattoos, ancient runes, all-seeing eyes, and symbols that screamed occult. From Celtic knots to what looked like voodoo vives, the kind tied to the real rituals in New Orleans' French Quarter. She wore strands of black wooden beads that clinked like bones, reeking of burnt sage and something darker, like graveyard dirt. "I've been studying," Tina said, her voice raspy, like wind through dead leaves. "Down in New Orleans, learning from the old ways. The bayous hold secrets, Tiff. Especially after Katrina, when the floods unearthed things that should have stayed buried." Tiffany shivered. Everyone knew about Hurricane Katrina in 2005, the Category 5 monster that killed over 1,800 people and flooded 80% of the city. News reports talked of bodies floating in the streets, survivors claiming spirits rose with the waters. Tina claimed she'd gone there to apprentice with a priestess, delving into hoodoo and black magic. "I came to bless your union," she added, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Mike welcomed her in, oblivious, fetching drinks from the kitchen. That's when Tina leaned in close to Tiffany, her breath hot and foul. "You wouldn't share him, would you? Fine, I'll take what's mine. Don't regret this." The words slithered out like a serpent's hiss. Tiffany brushed it off as jealousy, old wounds from their triangle. Big mistake. The wedding day arrived, crisp and golden, at that elegant hall with chandeliers dripping like icicles. Guests from upstate mingled with city folks, toasting with champagne. Tina showed up in a blood-red gown that clung like a second skin, her tattoos peeking out like warnings. During the speeches, she approached the head table, glass in hand. "Two old friends," she purred, insisting Mike drink from her flute as a peace offering for her absence. Tiffany watched in slow motion as Tina's finger grazed the rim, a faint gray powder, ash-like, dissolving into the bubbles. Mike laughed it off and downed it. Tina's lips curled into a grin that wasn't human. It was predatory, like a wolf spotting a lame deer. Tiffany's spine iced over, but the party raged on. Little did she know that sip sealed their doom. The honeymoon in the Hamptons was blissful at first. Beach walks, seafood at Gosman's Dock in Montauk. But a week later, back in Brooklyn, Mike changed. Subtly at first. He'd forget conversations, stare into corners as if seeing shadows move. "Just stress from work," he muttered. His job as a graphic designer at a Manhattan firm keeping him late. But then the jealousy ignited. It started small. "Why'd you wear that top? It's too low cut." He'd scroll through her phone obsessively, accusing her of flirting with co-workers. Calls came every hour when she was out. Video calls, his face filling the screen. Eyes wild. Nights were worse. Tiffany would wake to find him crouched at the foot of the bed watching her sleep. His eyes glowed reddish in the dark, like embers in a dying fire. "You're mine," he'd whisper, voice guttural. "Only mine. Anyone looks at you, I'll end them." The apartment turned oppressive. Doors creaked open on their own. Wedding photos crashed to the floor, glass shattering, but only Tiffany's face was mutilated, as if clawed by invisible hands. She'd find strands of black beads under the couch, smelling of that same burnt herb. Tiffany tried therapy, couple sessions in a midtown office overlooking Bryant Park. The counselor chalked it up to post-wedding anxiety, maybe PTSD from Mike's high school football injuries. But deep down, Tiffany knew better. She'd researched online, stumbling upon forums about curses, real stories from New Orleans survivors post-Katrina, claiming voodoo dolls washed up from flooded cemeteries, bringing misfortune. One article from the Times-Picayune detailed a 2006 case where a woman was arrested for practicing black magic, linked to a string of accidental deaths. Was Tina involved in something like that? The violence peaked 3 months in. They were at a Whole Foods in Brooklyn Heights, real place with its organic aisles and views of the harbor. At checkout, the cashier, a friendly guy in his 20s, smiled and handed Tiffany the receipt. "Have a great day?" Innocent. But Mike exploded. "You flirting with my wife?" he roared, lunging over the counter, fists flying. Blood sprayed as he pummeled the poor kid. Shoppers screamed. Security rushed in. Tiffany grabbed Mike's arm. "Stop! You're scaring me!" He whirled, face contorted into something demonic, veins bulging, eyes black pits. His fist connected with her nose. Crack. The sound echoed like thunder. Pain exploded, blood poured. She crumpled to the tile floor, world fading to black amid the chaos. She woke in Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan, nose bandaged, doctors muttering about rhinoplasty to fix the shatter. "You're lucky it wasn't worse," the surgeon said. But Tiffany felt cursed. She fled to her mom's house in Hoboken, New Jersey. Her mom, a devout Catholic with a side interest in spirituality, think rosaries mixed with tarot from her Italian roots, saw the darkness in Tiffany's aura. "This ain't normal, honey. We need help." They drove to a psychic in Newark, a Haitian woman named Madame Laveau, descendant of the famous Marie Laveau, New Orleans voodoo queen. Her shop was tucked in a brick building off Broad Street, reeking of sage and candle wax. Madame spread her tarot deck, rider weight, edges worn. The devil card flipped first, chains, horns, entrapment, then 3 of swords, a heart pierced by blades. "Child," she rasped in a thick accent, "your husband ain't mad. He's hexed. A woman wants him. Bad." "Love spell?" Tiffany whispered. Madame shook her head, beads clacking. "Worse. Jealousy curse. Black magic from the bayous. It don't make him love her yet. It twists his love for you into poison, obsession, rage. He'll destroy you himself, drive you away. Then she swoops in as savior." She explained the roots, tied to voodoo practices amplified by Katrina's chaos when flooded graves released energies. It's eating his soul, and the caster pays dearly. Karma comes fierce. Tiffany's blood ran cold. Mike was stalking now, lurking outside her mom's brownstone, knife glinting in streetlight, screaming her name. Cops issued a restraining order, but shadows followed her. She filed for divorce, changed her number, and bolted to Chicago for a fresh start. But the curse lingered. True to the psychic's word, Tina reappeared. Friends whispered she'd moved in with Mike in their old Brooklyn pad. She got pregnant fast, too fast. Tiffany rebuilt, met David, an Aussie tech guy at a conference, married him in a quiet Vegas chapel, Elvis efficient and all, and emigrated down under. Sydney's beaches healed her, but news from home shattered the peace. Years later, an email from an old classmate. Mike and Tina's kid was born with severe congenital defects, unable to walk, speak, just vegetative. Doctors blamed random mutation. Mike, fired from his job, drowning in booze at dive bars like Freddy's in Prospect Heights. But the curse didn't die. It flipped. Now Mike obsessed over Tina, locking her in, beating her black and blue. Neighbors called 911 nightly, hearing wails from their window. Tina was trapped by the child, by poverty, by the magic she'd unleashed. She'd won Mike, but he was her jailer, his jealousy a eternal torment.